I am Stavros. I met Erlang as an undergrad quite a few years ago, and then I did a PhD on Erlang, and I have evolved to be the dialyzer apologizer, I think. Everything that's going wrong there is, I come up and be like, yes, you are right, but have you thought of this? I'm the nice one. There is another guy that has stronger opinions. And then I joined Erlang Solutions in 2018. And ever since, I am working as a developer and as a trainer. And pretty quickly after that, I joined Telia ACE as an external member and consultant. And I have been working with a legacy code base with a lot of nice features that we heard about earlier. Yes, together with some other folks that are already in the audience. And this is as much as you will hear from me. The rest of the presentation is given by Hans.
Okay, thank you, Stavros. My name is Hans Nahringbauer. I'm one of the founders of Telia ACE a long time ago, and I'm head of development and the portfolio Telia ACE. Before I start, I will just a short introduction of Telia. I think most of people living in Sweden and the Nordics know about Telia, but it's an operator. We operates in Denmark and Sweden and Norway and in the Baltics mainly. We have around 20,000 employees. But today we are going to talk about the story about Erlang and Telia ACE. We will talk about how a small development team long time ago created a system just for 70 users that today have annual more than 350 usages each year in Northern Europe. We will talk about a first system with 2 Erlang servers running on Windows that actually became a cloud server, a cloud service in 2004. From being a quite small, obscure player to one of the market leaders in the contact center in the Nordics, or the one in the Nordics. I will also tell you the story of how we ended up to be recognized also globally, also with Frost & Sullivan recent report about marking us as one of the top forerunners as innovator in Europe in the contact center area. And also about how we ended up in the Google Morning Sofa and YouTube talking about ACE as well. But first, also, what is ACE? Short. It's a contact center solution running as a service. We have around 96,000 users that actually working with the system all day long. They don't do anything else. They are handling interactions. Then we have all these millions of users that is interfacing with the system. We have also been working with a part of ACE. I've not been that involved in that part, but it's working with natural language understanding. So we've been also early in that area, creating and introducing natural language in the Nordic languages. I have a question. I try to figure out how many of you that have used ACE. You probably don't know it. There were 2 guys. But how many, let's test. We put a hand up. How many of you living in the Nordics, in Sweden, has contacted one big insurance company during the last couple of years? Hand up. How many of you have contacted Destin Gotland to book a ferry ticket? How many of you have contacted the healthcare in southern part of Sweden, or in Gothenburg area, or in Stockholm area? Yeah, maybe with callbacks. Yeah. How many have been contacting the Swedish police force during the last 10 years? I can carry on. We have like 50% of the whole contact center solutions in Sweden and 20% in the whole Nordic region. So you have been using our system a lot, probably more than you know. And so Telia ACE, what it's about is that we create systems for municipalities and big companies. And we start with understanding what is the errand about. The old-fashioned way to do that is that you dial to some IVR, you dial in and you have an IVR and you press 5 for support. Then we kind of know that the intent is that you need some kind of support, or you press 6 for invoice questions. Well, we kind of know what your problem is, but not that exactly. But nowadays, we tend to use instead natural language understanding with a free speech conversation where we ask an open question, what's your problem? And then you say, well, my problem is that I don't understand the invoice, it seems to be wrong. And then we can use that information, understanding the intent. It could also be like when you communication with a chatbot. A chatbot is really good on asking questions and also understanding what your problem is. So that's one part. And then we matching this with something that can help you. And it could be a self-service, like a chatbot is, you're doing some changing of addresses, whatever, as an automatic service. But it can also be to route to a live person actually helping you solve the errand. And we do this in not only phone calls, but in social media interactions. It could be emails, SMS. We also do video, WebRTC interactions, all kinds of stuff. But it's very important as well that we produce a lot of data, a lot of statistical data, because we help these organizations to kind of understand what's going on within the calls or in the emails and use that to get better. We have outbound contacts, and we also work with something we call customer journey. If you're contacting a company in different channels, we glue it together in the data so we can help the contact center take better care about the customers. And one last thing about what Prod is doing, we have people that is working all day in the system, so we need to have really good user experience stuff for them. If you're sitting there all day long, you need to have a good graphical user interface as well. So this is what ACE is about. We don't do everything ourselves. We have a lot of partners. I will not go through them all, but we use some natural language understanding stuff from Google and the Nuance. We use Click for big data statistic analytics, and etc. And this is what we're going to talk about today. We of course use Erlang. And that's what the story is about. Okay, let's begin. The story really started in ancient times. It was 1997. And the first system we created was for Destination Gotland. We had 70 agents, 2 on-prem servers, running Erlang on Windows Server. I think it was like Windows NT or something really ancient. And the fun thing is that this customer, this is still running ACE, not there, but in the cloud, but still a customer over the years. This is some information. I had a presentation here on Erlang User Conference that was in '99. It was so the story really begins a little bit earlier when we were about to start building this system. We wanted to do some important decisions and what to build it in. And of course, we wanted to build it in Erlang, but we needed to convince the sponsors that we really could use Erlang. And in those days, Erlang was something you haven't heard about, and everybody was using C or C++. That was the language, nothing else. So we needed to convince them, and we did some. We ended up in a good way, starting using Erlang. And the main reasons we argued using Erlang was it's much lower cost for development. The maintenance cost for the system is also lower. The ability to achieve robustness. It was made for telco system. I mean, it was Ericsson language. And we had quite good experiences from prototyping as well. And we had Erlang competence in the building. So 20 years later, or really 25 years later, I'm not that good at counting, I realize. 25 years later, we say that Erlang OTP is still perfect for Telia ACE. We continue building new stuff on Erlang all the time. It has really been proven robust because, I mean, we have so many systems that is business critical. It's never allowed to go down 24/7. You know, healthcare, police force, all that stuff. It really needs to be robust, and it's proven. It's the language to use if you're going to build this kind of stuff. So it's easy to create redundancy and scalability and concurrency. And it's really cost effective to maintain. With quite few developers, you can maintain a quite big system. And it's really cost effective also to building new applications. During this journey, I have some milestones. I will not talk about everything that happens during all these years, but one thing was in the beginning, creating a routing engine for Erlang. And some part, we actually rewrote all the stuff in around 2000. And then we did rewrite it in Erlang OTP, starting using that. And I think that's a key thing for making success, because we used GenFSM, GenServers, and the supervisor trees, and GenEvent. And we would not have made it without those, I think, because we have so much real-time communications. All calls is, we need a finite state machine keeping track on the state on each call. We have a lot of IVR channels in those days, also keeping track of the states. All the agents or clients in the system, we need to keep the states and are they ready or free for routing calls to, etc. So the GenFSM was a big thing to making this work. Also supervisor trees, making it robust. And we still use a lot of this stuff. GenFSM is still, we're still migrating some old GenFSM code to newer tools, but still. Okay. Another milestone was 2004, where we became more like a service. We started to do it more like a proper service in Telia Network. We have actually started with service concept already in '97, and that's, I mean, this is really early. But if you look nowadays, everything is a service, right? So that's a milestone. And to do this, we introduced also starting using VMware for virtualizing the servers, not having hardware, but to have a virtualized service, creating better redundancy also from a hardware perspective. We're still using this. And in 2016, I think we have a milestone there as well, because then we created ACE Clusterware. We have the daddy for ACE Clusterware, Micke, is sitting here in the audience. It's his son, maybe, or daughter, or whatever. Stavros will tell you much more about Clusterware today. And the reason we did this was that we changed all the client structure using web clients. So we created single-page applications using JavaScript, and then we need a new Erlang backend handling this and able to scale in a robust way for really big volumes. Then the ACE Clusterware was created. We started using JavaScript on Angular. We were a little bit too early on adopting JavaScript. I will not say anything about that language, but we later had to refactor everything to Vue, actually. Okay, and these are some of the software clients that our users using. I will not go into them, but it's real-time monitoring stuff, keeping track on all the queues and stuff happening in real time. ACE Interact is something all the agents is using, and Coach is for administrating, configuring, and business intelligence statistical stuff. But now I'll hand over to Stavros and talk more about the Clusterware.
So yeah, So my understanding, I joined Telia as a consultant, and I am learning of their journey as I go in. And clusterware was actually one of the more fun parts to sit in and develop things that I will get to in a moment. But so Telia already has this amazing system with Windows servers, the structure that they have, and now they want to start serving things over the internet with JavaScript clients and all of that instead. So and they already know about Erlang, so it's trivial to create this kind of service. And this is a little abstract way of showing the system and its architecture. So you have the web clients that are connecting where the agents are sitting and are connecting to the system. And those are communicating with the clusterware cluster, which is sitting in the middle, and it maintains its state, it synchronizes, it's redundant, and I will immediately show more about this. And also, it communicates with the existing system that is behind the scene on the Windows servers, where all the old logic lives and thrives. And a little neat gem there that Mickey has made, and he's never talking about it, is a little library called ePort, which is available as an open source library and allows you to do a restricted remote procedure call between the clusterware cluster and the rest of the system living behind the scenes. With control, you can define your protocol module and only allow those things to be called that you want to be called. But yeah, I mean, clusterware is what you really need for offering this kind of service, and what you can trivially get if you are using Erlang to build it. You have multiple sites, and you have hardware redundancy in those sites so that nothing fails. You have load balancers, you have redundancy with load balancers, you can take down one of those systems. Like, again, all these things seem trivial if you are a senior engineer, and most of you are senior engineers. But all of these things you still get with, you can get by building this system with Erlang and match everybody else's expectations. Yeah, you can upgrade your system in production, you can take nodes offline, update them, put them back on. Like, you don't need to use all the fancy features of Erlang with hot code loading and whatnot everywhere, but you can. And then you end up with a system that, as Hans said at the beginning, it has had 99.99 uptime because of this. My initial engagement with Telia was about a new recording solution that was being built, and later evolved into also an interactive voice response system, an IVR system that built on top of that. And that started involving AWS. And again, clusterware sits in the middle, and this slide is intentionally blurred so that not all the details are trivially visible, but you can see a cloud there, and that's a third-party provider that is doing some of the heavy lifting. Stopped. And it connects with the telephony, and then Telia has its own side of cloud services, and they connect to clusterware, and they connect to everything else. In a smaller picture, similar to my previous one, Telia is making the leap to the cloud, to the proper cloud, let's say to the hyperscaler cloud, as Hans calls it, with AWS, and using all the services that one will be using to build such a system today. Clusterware is still in the middle, taking care of the routing. Now several different customers are connecting via the same path, and they need to be routed to the right servers behind. We are using AirCloud to integrate with AWS services, keeping an eye open to Erlang AWS, or AWS Erlang, which is growing and getting more and more support. And again, the old system is there, keeps track of everything, keeps an audit trail, stays on top of everything. if you want to learn more about these things, you can talk to me, or Mike, or Anders, or anybody else from the Telia team. But I'll now hand back to Hans to talk about more of the vision.
Yeah, now we are at present time. We had a release in April. We introduced, I don't know if this will be a milestone for the product, but I hope so, a new Microsoft Teams integration, where we integrate with video and telephony Microsoft Teams, enabling agents to use Microsoft Teams as a soft phone, working with calls and a lot of other stuff. So that's the latest, I hope, milestone. But what we are doing right now is something I will try to explain. If you go back in time, I mean, most of the systems were on-premise data centers. I mean, banks and stuff, they still do a lot of stuff in their own data centers. But we have seen like some migration to the cloud. Companies and municipalities is using cloud services in a much more extent, especially in Nordics, I will say. And there's two types of cloud service platforms. You can say it's the classical hyperscalers. You have AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. And then we have the telco players like Telia, where I come from, AT&T, and those. But what we have seen now that is a bit new in the last years is that there's a movement back from the cloud also to on-premise data centers. It's about regulatory issues. It's mostly public sector and municipalities. And the reason is, this SREM 2 verdict and Cloud Act, those stuff, forcing companies and municipalities to go on-prem again because they don't trust the American players, American companies. It's not okay. And now we have the geopolitical situation, Ukraine, and that's also pushing this quite a lot. So how do we address this? I mean, a lot of companies is having issues with this. I will come to that soon. One thing that has happened is that the hyperscalers are starting to realize that if they want to work in Europe, they need to do something about this. So will probably be more like sovereign cloud features, like we have Google Cloud Outposts, for example, that you can use Google features like AI and stuff, put it in your data centers and run it, but have a secure sovereign cloud around it. So we will see if that happens. But what we're doing meantime, because we produce Telia ACE both in hyperscalers and in telco cloud, is that we're building new stuff in AWS. We're also doing it together with partners, but we need to be cloud agnostic and run it in both places. So right now we have a quite fun project going on, a very important, big one, where we are some new modules we have for IVR and recording that is only in AWS, and we are using a partner there that called ITComs. So we have they have built a service for us in AWS, and now we want to run it in Telia. So we will continue buy a service from them and then produce it in Telia. So we are using. The idea is to use something called Avassa. I don't know if Avassa is there. Any Avassa people in the room? Yeah, they are. It's built on Erlang, so that's a cool thing. I think it's also a reason I trusted this solution, you guys, is that ITComs will use Avassa to actually produce their service in our cloud so we can have a sovereign cloud from security issues. So that's what we are doing right now. I promised also to talk about how we ended up in the Google Cloud morning sofa on YouTube. This was a couple of years ago, and the reason was that we have a good partnership, a gold partnership with Google, and was one of 5 globally that started to use their new AI CCAI platform. It's mostly about natural language, It got a big fuss because we were quite early adopters in this area, and still it's only 10 players globally is doing this. So I try to explain what it is. It's when a customer interacts with a company, they end up with a virtual agent. We have had other technologies for this before, handling natural language conversations. But the virtual agent is now empowered by Google CCAI engine. It's much more powerful engine for natural language. So the virtual agent is helping the customer solving the errand. If it can't solve the errand, it's transferred to a live agent. So that was the first part of CCAI. That's already out there since a couple of years ago. But what we're doing now is adding something we called Agent Assist. And also using this Google CCAI. And Stavros will work with this later this year.
Will I? Oh.
Yeah, you will. It's about when the call or the chat is ending up as an agent, we want to be able to coach them or help them. So the virtual agent will continue to be in the interaction. So if it's a chat, it will listen to the chat and search data from the knowledge database or do stuff for coaching the agent what to do within the chat. And if it's a phone call, that's the thing we're going to do, is that the virtual agent actually listening to the ongoing phone call between the agent and customer, transcribe it to text, and then we do the virtual agent on that. So that's quite heavy stuff. And later on, we also, it's a third part of Google features that's called Insights. We already today, we do something called interaction analytics, that we will listen to, we record all the calls, and then we transcribe it to text, and they have big databases. And then we have a partner program that can help to find out what's actually going on in all these calls. If you're going to find out what people are talking about, you need to listen to every call. That takes enormous amount of time. But if you can do it in a big data way, you can find out what the problem is. I have a good example. We had in Telia, we had one day, we're using this stuff ourselves, whole Telia as a contact center. We realized that there were a big peak in the volume of calls, and we didn't understand why. But with this insights, we could see that there were a new topic. There was a lot of stuff, questions regarding some invoices. And then they checked and saw that, well, we sent out a big invoice yesterday. And we could check the calls, and then realizing that it was wrong. And we knew that they will send out like 500,000 or million the coming week, so they could stop that. So you can use insights to improve entire companies on how they're working and improving. And what we can do with Google is we can do this in real time. So that's the new stuff. We have plenty of time. I will sum up a bit. We have made this quite nice journey, has been really a success. And I will say that a key to this has been that we have been using Erlang OTP. We would never have created this without it, actually. And the redundancy and robustness has been necessary to do this, and also the ability to scale and distribute, and also that we can keep such a massive product with quite few developers. One thing, of course, is that we have really good co-workers. The team is really great. And that we actually have been keeping people working together for, more than 20 years. A lot of people have stayed and made a good effort. So I think that's a key as well. And that we quite early started to be a cloud service. That's also a success factor as well. And other things as well. But we wouldn't have done this without Erlang. And some of the guys is in the conference here today. And some of, not the first year, but early team there. Who are we today? We have offices, development of ACE. We have in Uppsala and Solna and Malmö and in Karlskrona and Vilnius in Lithuania, and in Helsinki. And we are around 250 people today working with ACE, but working with development, we are around 80 somewhere. And 2 Scrum teams is working with Erlang. And we are also looking for, we are employing, so we're looking for Erlang developers as well. We want to continue to expand. Stavros, have we something more to say?
I don't think so.
We don't have anything more to say. So let's end it there.